So welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight, where we deep dive into strategies of successful leading professionals and business owners. And today we have Ben Thompson joining us. Ben is not only the managing director of Thompson and Terry Recruitment, but he's also a seasoned presenter of the Business Brunch on Get Radio. So I feel a bit under pressure today, Ben. With a seasoned professional of hosting and things like that, it's great to have you on the show. It'd be fantastic if you could just kick us off with a little bit about your recruitment journey and what it is that you do differently to other recruiters out there.
Amazing. David, firstly, thank you so much for inviting me. Certainly I'm coming into this as the amateur. So just in terms of my background, so I run Thompson and Terry Recruitment. I set up the business 10 years ago. With no recruitment experience, which is something that you don't learn in any business book, do you? But I really, with my business partner at the time, Mike Terry, that I bought out a couple of years into business, we really felt that we could do recruitment a bit better. We felt recruitment was a little bit broken, and what we felt was broken about recruitment was 98% of recruitment agencies you would be targeted by KPIs. You would be targeted to register a certain amount of candidates onto your books. You would be targeted to send a certain number of CVs when you get a job on within a certain period of time. And those are the two real kind of main KPIs, which is fine. But there's a lot of losers in that. So if you're targeted, let's say, register 100 candidates a month and you're making 5 placements a month, you've got 95 people that have spent the time to register with you that in essence you've not got a job for. But equally, if you're sending 5 or 7 CVs, which is a typical agency KPI, to a client, knowing full well that actually 4 or 5 or 6 of them are going to be wrong, actually it's a huge amount of investment for the candidate, firstly to prepare for an interview for a job they're not going to get, but also for the employer, busy business owners, HR managers, leaders, to invest time in interviewing somebody that's not the right fit. So we set up the business with a really simple philosophy. We're only sending a candidate to our client that we personally employ ourselves. We work like a headhunting firm in inverted commas, in terms of we don't have any candidates on our books. We take on a role, we go out to market, we find the best person for that job. And as a result, 86% of the first CV we sent last year got the job. The national average is scarily just over 5%. So
It's
we're really
frighteningly low, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's because of that KPI nature.
Yeah.
So I genuinely, and my team always tell me off when I say this, so I'm sure I will be told off, but genuinely, I don't think we're better than anyone else. Like, I really don't. I don't think we're more skilled. We just follow a really simple philosophy. We've got a really strong mission statement and values that we never move from. And as a result, our clients are getting a really good result. The candidates are getting a really good result, and so are we. So yeah, that's a little bit of background.
Interesting. I'm gonna go into those values and the KPIs in a second, but I'm intrigued because it's very rare to find a business owner that starts up a business from something that they've never done before. Normally, the plumber starts a plumbing firm or the electrician starts an electrician firm. So what were you doing before? How did you
So I worked in radio.
Yeah,
so I worked in radio. I was working for Jack FM of the time, and but not on the radio side. I had a brief spell. I'm doing various radio ads. So I was noodle boy once before for a chain of noodle restaurants. But those various things. But in all honesty, I love dealing with people. Radio advertising really is about sales and relationships, and from a very early age, going right back to the age of 7, I had 18 chickens in my parents' 3-bedroom semi-garden, and I was selling chicken eggs, which I sold all the branding that I built on my 1996 computer or whatever. So I certainly always had that plan to run a business.
Entrepreneurial spirit sort of
when
thing,
I was at Jack FM, I loved my job. Like, I really did love my job, but I wanted to run a business, and it was very much, I'd read a lot of business books, I'd spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs, and there was that point where I felt, do you know what, I can't set up a radio station, or it wasn't what I wanted to do to compete. And I thought recruitment isn't that complicated. It's just about people and just being a good judge of character. And yeah, fast forward 10 years later, it seems to be working pretty well.
Something's working. So,
yeah, exactly
so
that.
keep going for 10 years. So over that 10-year period then, thinking as a business owner, what have been your biggest challenges?
So I think something you and I were actually discussing off air, but before this recording, is I think being at the top of the business as a sole business owner is a lonely place, isn't it? I think that if you go into even a senior management role within a big business, you're going to have a boss ahead of you. You're going to have a learning and development department. You're going to have a finance department, a HR department, an IT department. And I think that as a small business owner, I think that you need to wear many hats. Of course you do. And I think that sometimes, I think the biggest challenge, I think for most small business owners, if they're really, really honest, is that actually you are wearing many hats. You are carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders. And when it goes really well, the highs are so much bigger than being an employee, in my opinion. But actually, when you do have those things that actually you're probably not going to remember in a year's time, or they're not going to be a challenge, but just at the end of the day on a Friday, and then you go to bed and you can't sleep because actually it's really stressful, or working until 3 in the morning to fix X. I think we all know that in reality, a real business is when you can take yourself out of the business and it runs without you. You know, my team are really talented. They've done an amazing job for the last 3 weeks without me. Better revenue than when I'm here. Maybe I should be sacked. But in all
That's
honesty,
true of most business owners. Actually, they tend to get to a point they get in the way of their own business sometimes. So
yeah,
you're
exactly
not
that.
alone.
And I think we all know it, don't we? But I
Yeah,
think that there are definitely, if I look back over the last 10 years, there's definitely points where I've looked at and thought, with hindsight, it wasn't a big deal. Or with hindsight, actually, I should have made that decision 5 years earlier. But I certainly think that, yeah, I think being the owner managed business is without the doubt the biggest challenge, but the biggest love.
yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's going to be sort of a common theme across most business owners to have those challenges. So, what advice would you have for those people out there that you sort of say this is maybe how you overcame them, or in
Mm.
hindsight, this is what you might have done to overcome them?
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I'm gonna give two if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
So the recruiter in me will obviously always say, and I genuinely do mean this, hire people better than you. Like genuinely,
Yeah,
if I look at my team, I genuinely think every one of them is probably better than me, in the nicest possible way. And genuinely, I'm not being polite. But I think that I don't necessarily mean hire the person who is the managing director and the owner of a small business because they probably want to run a small business, but actually look at what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, but also what do you enjoy and what don't you enjoy. And I think one of the great things of running a small business is, even if you are good at something but you don't enjoy it, actually employ somebody to do that. Or can you outsource that thing? Because I think, we all work plenty of hours, some more than others, but in reality I think that if you can get rid of some of those things that you don't enjoy, you might be good at them, you might not be good at them, and really design what is the best role for you within your business. I think that's the kind of point one. And then I think the second point is definitely connected. I think look at really, um, I guess, who can you ask for help? Who can you be vulnerable to? Who can be that support network? Whether it be a business coach, whether it be a mentor, whether it be your accountant, whether it be X service provider or a marketing expert. I think that probably the reason that our business is still, thriving 10 years on is because I think I've really quickly learned that actually, yes, in a new business meeting, we need to be, say, yes, we can do it, but be authentic and ask for help, talk about your weaknesses as well as your strengths. And I think that that's probably been something that's gone through our whole business for 10 years, and actually the thing that I'm most proud of.
Yeah, it's a great point actually, and certainly since I've been sort of doing things like this and been in the environment that I've been coming out of a corporate world,
Mm,
actually business owners they're willing to share. You know, it's a really
mm,
nice opportunity to
mm,
reach out and talk to other business owners and talk through challenges. It feels a bit different to the corporate world, where corporate sometimes is a
mm,
little bit guarded, isn't it? You know, kind of don't want to give away your secrets sort of thing. Whereas generally in the world of SME businesses, certainly in the West Oxfordshire area, everybody's really supportive and really willing to help and
mm.
reach out to that community, reach out to the
Absolutely.
people around you. Very good. You talk about team. You talk about team in terms of employing people that are better than you, and in
Mm,
terms of getting, good people to do the role that you're employing them to do, and talk about your
mm,
skill fund matrix type of thing, identifying the things that you're good at and
mm,
enjoy and stuff like that. Clearly, it sounds like you've got a high performing team, a good team that are
mm,
working well in the business together. How do you sort of foster that high performance sort of
mm,
environment and culture? How do you bring it to life and keep it going?
mm. Um, those who know me well will know that I love a football analogy.
Okay.
So I'm gonna use one. So, within our business, this isn't actually an analogy. I'll come on to that. But within our business, we've grown our business through a graduate program. So I designed and launched the graduate program for SMEs in Oxfordshire because I could
Oh
only
well.
find 7 graduate programs advertised by SMEs in Oxfordshire in the summer of 2018. So I designed my own, I funded it, and we've rolled it out well over 100 times across our clients. And so if we look at our team, every single one of our team originally joined on the graduate program, to the point of Aoife, who's had 4 promotions now, and a management level. But I think that how we constantly ensure that our team are high performing and ensure that our team are being fulfilled is by every single month they've got something to work towards. So we've got a really structured
Okay.
appraisal process, and there's no such thing as a perfect month. There's no such thing as a terrible month. It's really important that every single person I employ, every month they could rewrite their CV and there would be something new to add on that would increase their outside value. They
Oh,
stay
okay.
because they've got something to work towards. And I think that then if I put my recruiter hat on, the biggest reason we see anyone leave a job is because they feel that they've reached a goal, or they've reached a line in the sand, or they feel that there's nothing else they can achieve. And actually, that's the point. I think that within our team, we've had a lot of people that have left us, every single one of them on really good terms, and we've supported them into their next role and built
It's a
their
natural
CV.
part of their progression.
Exactly, but we have really,
Yeah.
really honest conversations with our team in terms of, it's part of those one-to-ones. Where are your career goals? How can we get you to those goals, both in terms of a
Yeah.
10-year goal, a 5-year goal, a 3-year goal, and right down to even a weekly goal, to ensure that they're reaching their goals. The business is winning, but actually,
Oh,
so
100%.
are they.
It's a great ethos, and certainly one that I reflect back on for my corporate career in terms of helping that individual grow to become the best that they can go. And the byproduct of that
Absolutely.
is they might well go off and, leave your company and work for somebody else. But in the process, they're getting the best out of it, and you're getting the best out of it. It's a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
And
it's
it's
an
just so
amazing feeling
rewarding,
when you
isn't it?
see, yeah, amazing feeling when you see people go off and do great things and stuff. It's really
Absolutely.
cool. So it sounds like, you talk about the bringing people on from a graduate scheme and having that sense of purpose by having a something that they belong to, and in fact sounds like the culture and the sort of values that you've got in the organization are really centered around growth and the people development and things. And it brings me back to, I was going to pick up on the KPIs. We need KPIs in business. We need to measure
Mm,
things to know what's working, what's not. One of the dangers sometimes is having a KPI that breeds bad behavior.
mm,
Bit
mm,
like your recruitment KPI, sort of like 100
absolutely.
CVs and sends 10 out, or whatever the
Mm,
number is. Sometimes that becomes a bad behavior because you're doing it just to hit the number. So how
mm,
do running a business, clearly a successful business, get that balance between, we need to hit numbers,
mm,
but we also need to recognize what's right for the individuals and what's right for the
mm,
clients and the business. How do you get that bit right?
absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, David. I think you make a really good point. I think how we do it within our business, this isn't necessarily the right way for every business because it is quite unique to recruitment. But I think that the only KPI we've got from a recruitment funnel point of view is around success rate from first CV. We always base it on that, because what I don't ever want to do is, as we touched on earlier in this recording, is our staff to feel pressured to send the wrong people. The wrong people waste time going for an interview, and the clients waste time interviewing the wrong person. So I think that the success rate from CV is always our most important thing. And I think that, to give you an idea, this isn't our average, but I suppose let's start with our average. Our average time to fill a job, and bearing in mind most of the vacancies we work on are relatively junior, is probably around 6 weeks, which is a long way over the national
Yeah.
average. But the biggest cost of recruitment is when it goes wrong. So, but we took 18 months ago, we took 3 months to fill a really junior job. We just could not find the right person. And we interviewed and we interviewed and we interviewed. And that business had a really strong ethos and values, and their team were very brilliant, high performing, but very unique in terms of their personalities, both inside work and outside work. But that person that we placed, the feedback that we've had is absolutely incredible. They've been promoted all within this 18 months. And actually, the business owner said to me confidentially, "Do you know what, Ben? I actually see this person you placed as being one of the future directors of the business." So I think that's probably the one KPI that's really big. But then in terms of our people, I think that I don't define the KPIs necessarily. So the big thing that I do in everything I do in business is I want to double my costs. I say that to people as part of an interview process. We say it as part of our monthly meetings. We say it as part of our business planning sessions. Like we always say, everything I do in business, I want to double my cost. If I'm doing a penny more than doubling my cost, I'm being too greedy. So I want to enhance salaries, enhance what we give to charity, and ensure that I don't go over that. If I'm doing less than double my cost, actually, I don't have a sustainable business because, from my point of view, if we look at COVID, so many people in recruitment and so many businesses were put on furlough at 80% or made redundant completely. We paid 100% to everyone the whole way through. We paid every invoice the whole way through COVID, and we paid it quickly because I think this then comes on to our values. Our mission statement is about there will never be a loser. So it's about growing together, building our team, building our clients, build candidates, and build the community around us. And I think that's really, really important to us. So yes, we want to double our investment on everything. So our profit margin is exactly 50% of our turnover. Yes, we want to have a really high success rate. But in terms of the KPIs for individuals, some of the people on our team have said, do you know what, I want to be able to make this revenue within this period of time. Some of the people on our team have said, actually, I want to get this qualification. But I think those things are very much in line with their performance plans as opposed to set by me. As long as we're doubling our costs, as long as we've got the success rate, I'm really, really comfortable.
So you've got a really strong common goal between what the business needs, but also actually what the individuals need within that organisation to get what they
Absolutely.
want out of it. It's really good, really good.
Absolutely.
I mean, you clearly, you've got a successful formula that seems to be working. You're 10 years in, so you survived longer than most businesses out there, which is great. You mentioned earlier when you were talking about some of the challenges over the time about, oh, maybe I could have done this earlier and stuff. You look back over those 10 years, is there anything you do differently? If you had the opportunity to wind back the clock and jump in a time machine and go back to the beginning, is there anything you'd fundamentally change or do differently?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been a couple of points that I've looked at and thought, you know what, I genuinely made a mistake in that scenario. So for example, for our first few months, so the recruitment agency normally is and is that you would always rewrite CVs. So you would never send the original CV. You would either put your footer on it or you would reformat it in your bullet points. And we never rewrote anybody's work, but we would always get every CV into the same format. And I always remember a case where a client said to me, oh, I'm sure I'd seen that CV a couple of years back, but I didn't interview them because their CV was rubbish. And I was like, and I straight away I said, oh no, we wrote the CV and explained why. And from that point, I've said, do you know what? Every single time we will send the original CV with the contact details. And do you know what? If the client wants to approach them directly, you do that. So I think that was one thing that I looked at. But I think if I look big picture, I think my biggest mistake in business is when I first bought out my business partner. I think I got that. I got that maybe a bit of imposter syndrome potentially,
Okay.
maybe a bit of over ambition, but overnight I wanted to make my mark. So I tripled our advertising, I enhanced our team, I really accelerated everything that I was doing. I started working with a business coach that the fees were about half of our turnover. So like really went for a lot of things, and it just wasn't us. And you know what? We had the worst quarter in our absolute history. It all came, I say, tumbling down. It started to come tumbling down, and actually, I had to pivot very quickly. The plus out of that is our graduate program was launched, and it's been the biggest thing and the best thing that's happened in our business. The other positive is I think that in terms of my learning curve, I think I learned more than I've ever learned before. Our mission statement was the point that really was defined. So really good things came out of it. But I think that, don't get me wrong, we made some big mistakes over a 3-month period. And actually, I think that was the one period that we probably didn't quite align to our values that we established during those times, and we bounced back stronger after that. But I think that was definitely the point where we made mistakes.
There's certainly a few lessons in there, and you alluded to around not aligning to your values, so being congruent to who you really are.
Yeah.
Business growth isn't necessarily just about increasing turnover, is it?
Mm.
Can be increasing the quality, can be increasing the sort of the relationships you got. So sometimes we hang a sort of a picture of growth around a financial number or a turnover or a team size and things. and then the pivoting quickly, recognizing that it's not the right path, being able to then go, you know what, I've made a mistake. Vulnerability. Let's switch back. Lots of
You hit the
lessons to
nail on
learn
the
from
head.
that. Yeah, very good. You're clearly a busy person. You know, you've got lots on the go. You've got lots of passion and lots of energy, which is coming through the screen in abundance. Time. Let's talk about a bit of time. Everybody's got 24 hours in a day. How do you manage your time with what you're doing? How do you prioritize where you focus your time?
Yeah, probably not that well. If I'm being really honest, probably not that well. So from my point of view, I think that yes, as a business, I think it's really important that my rate per hour in inverted commas is very different to our fresh grad, which is very different to our to our junior manager, to our senior manager. So we're very aware of that. But I think
Yeah.
that at the same time, I think from my point of view, I've always been a big believer in I would rather me miss out than my team miss out. And I think that a lot of business books will say pay yourself first, then pay everything else. I would absolutely pay myself last. And the reason why I would do that isn't because I don't want a profitable business, is because actually I've made the commitment that I will pay your salary. I've made the commitment that I've bought this advertising, so I'll pay your invoices that I get it. And I think that all of those things are just a value thing and the choices that we have as businesses. So I definitely think that from a time point of view, there is definitely times where I've done my 80-hour weeks or my 90-hour weeks because a client needs us and there's that deadline. But I think that in terms of our vision for time and where I see that the time going and how I see I'm improving. So I had a daughter just at the end of last year, and the big thing that I did to do that is I looked at everything I do in my life, and I sold my networking business because actually 80 or 90% of my income comes from Thompson and Terry, but
Yeah.
actually 50% of my time was being spent on the networking business. So that was an example of taking time away. And then I think that in addition to that, every month as part of the appraisal process with the team, I look at them and say, is there anything that I do that you think you would like to take on and that I could train you and develop you in? And I say that to every team member. So it's about taking as many hats away from me. And I think the winner of that is, yes, of course, it's me. I've got a business that has got more value or whatever, or I get to go on nice holidays. But at the same time, I think that it helps them to win. So the ultimate goal, we've got an 11-year business plan. 11-year business plan is I will retire in 11 years and the team will take ownership of the business and I'll step away. So that's our exit. And that's what we're working towards, is every month take time away from me, add on to the team to the point where I'm completely redundant in 11 years and the business carries on to them. So yeah, I didn't really answer your question there, but I think the answer is we're not actually that good at it, but we're certainly working towards it.
But I think that's the thing, though. You've got a plan and you've got that sort of end in mind, haven't you? So a lot of business owners don't have that 10-year plan, that dream, that sort of longer term. Sometimes they do when they start off, but over a period of time, the daily grind just starts to take over, and then it becomes more of working your own business rather than owning a business. But I
Absolutely.
think, you know, having that strategy around whether it's 11 years, 10 years, 15 years, 4 years, having that clear goal of where you're going helps you make decisions today based on that outcome. Whether it's recruiting
Absolutely.
somebody who's going to be part of that team to take over the business, or whether it's setting up systems and things to be able to get you out of the business, it helps you make decisions on a clearer basis today. And it's all about priorities, because there's always
Absolutely.
stuff we can do. There's always something else that we could be putting our
Mm.
attention to. You know, the networking business, it might be something you really enjoy, but it's a question of priorities. And the priorities for you at that time were other areas. Accept
Absolutely.
that it's kind of, you've got to put that to one side and it's not a priority. Focus on family, focus on what you're focusing on. And you can go back to it at another time if that's something you
Yeah,
really enjoy and when you've got the time and freedom to be able to do it. So
absolutely.
there's a lot of value that you've built into it, whether that's intentionally or not. But there's a lot of value that other business owners can take from that, because you know, having that clarity around where you're going can make decision making today really a lot easier, a lot more straightforward.
Absolutely.
Very
I think
good.
there's a really famous phrase, isn't there? Having no plan is a plan to fail.
Yeah,
I think that's something we can all learn from.
absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I could talk to you for hours. You clearly have a very passionate view over business and what you're doing. It's been great to talk to you. Can you, a couple of things. One is, one piece of advice that you'd give to fellow business owners, potentially in the sort of space of looking to grow. What advice would you give?
I think without a shadow of a doubt is surround yourself with the best people you possibly can. And that isn't just staff. So that is, yes, staff and team. That is people like business coaches and accountants and a trusted network. But that is also friends and family. Let people in, let friends, let family in, and have that support network. And I think
Suppliers and clients and
yeah,
absolutely.
100%. Genuinely, I think that is by far the biggest piece of advice I could ever give.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So before we wrap up, where can our listeners go to find out a bit more about the services you offer and sort of reach out and make contact if they wanted to?
Yeah, no, absolutely. By all means, head over to our website, so thompsonandterry.co.uk, and spell AND. But also, yeah, check me out on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Ben Thompson. And yeah, I'd be really, really love to chat to anyone that would like to have a chat, or anyone that could do with some advice in any way possible.
Fantastic. Ben, thank you very much for your time. It's been really great. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so much. I've loved the conversation.